KIT News Time is 8:50. If you're just joining us, we are talking to District 4 candidate Kay Funk. Kay, there's been a lot of talk about a change in government to a strong mayor form of government, an elected mayor. Would you support something like that?
No, I am against that. You either have a strong mayor or you have a city manager. Union Gap has a strong mayor form of government. How's that working out?
No comment at this time.
Okay. And it's the city manager has professional expertise and established knowledge base in education. I value that. And it's easier to get rid of a hired person who's not doing a good job than an elected person who's not doing a good job. If we only elected people who did a great job, it would be a very different world.
Would it? Would it
how's the county clerk working out?
Good point. Good point.
No comment. You know, there's a lot of talk about infrastructure needs in this. So I just drive around this community and you know, some road work, and there's been talk of a number of projects that could get done with an increase in car tab fees. Would you support something like that, or would you find another way to support that infrastructure work in the city here?
Well, I live in an older neighborhood where the streets and sidewalks are probably close to 100 years old, and it's not the oldest neighborhood in the whole city. The sidewalks are bad. The streets are kind of bad. That said, replacing sidewalks is really expensive. Of course, it's a 100-year investment, so that's worthwhile. Car tabs, my understanding of the car tab proposal is, first of all, it is a tax, and the voters voted to have that 2/3 threshold for approving a tax. And that's legitimate. And then also the city council should, it's not really good government to be moving beyond what the voters want and feel comfortable with. Car tabs are a regressive tax. I believe the plan is to have a flat fee, so if you have like an $800 car like mine, you pay the same as someone with a $50,000 car.
Like Lance.
Yeah,
Kidding.
Yeah, right.
And I'm driving an $800 car by, you know, choice. I have other options, but many people don't, and
Sure.
I am in favor of progressive taxes, not regressive taxes.
Well, we still have to fix those streets, though. So the city has done some work in that, setting aside a couple $1 million off the top, but that money's been spent, and it will be spent paying for the next 20 years. So it'll be interesting to see the challenges that this next council will deal with, and you might get to wrestle with that one way or the other. The other thing that sometimes gets bandied about is economic development. Some people say that's not even the city's job. How do you see the city's job? Is it to be more proactive with its citizens, or is it to make sure the garbage is picked up and the trains run on time and everybody else pretty much takes care of themselves? How would you describe your vision of what government's all about?
Government assistance with goals that are worthwhile for the public are desirable. I'm not against that. It has to be carefully weighed, cost and benefit. There's a vast variety of possibilities for economic development incentives. Some of them have been great, some of them have been not so great. So you can't make a blanket statement about that. I think that and then also economic development has to fit within the long-term planning of the city, and so it's completely appropriate for the city to work with investors and to give them assistance if their goals are clearly good and support lots of people.
Well, one of the reasons that I asked the question, because you talked about the involvement and investment in kids, the other day the city council decided to spend an extra $50,000 at a time when money for them is short to invest in more slots for summer activities for kids. The idea being that as we see the gang spike that you referenced, that the place that government can be involved is helping to provide some sort of activities and structures that might be a diversion for kids that are young and to keep from heading down that road. Is that a reasonable investment of city dollars, do you think?
That was a really interesting discussion, and some of the ideas that were brought up, like having indexes of multiple youth activities, some of which are completely privately funded. That was really interesting. But that said, I think that $50,000 vote was a gesture of support for the very stressed community on the east side, and I think and I support that specific vote.
Okay.
Okay, there's been a lot of talk about the policing policy that would bar officers from asking about immigration status. A lot of talk about that, community forums and things like that. Do you support that policy?
You say it would bar police.
They don't do it now anyway.
Yeah, that policy is already in place.
Right.
It's a good policy. Dulce Gutierrez is talking about it as a public safety issue, and then she's advocating for that to be codified as an ordinance, which would be a public safety ordinance. So the policy is already in place. I think that's great. I think that the city council needs to provide continuous oversight for the police department to make sure that those goals are being met. As far as codifying it in an ordinance, I'm in favor of it being done, but I don't think that I would vote for an ordinance if I didn't feel that there was strong public support. It's the type of thing that might be better put on the ballot. And we are at this time, our federal government has made a lot of really chaotic announcements about what they plan to do with immigration enforcement and deportation, and until we have more clarity on what those federal threats to immigrants are going to be like, I think that it would be premature for the city, which is a very minor player in immigration policy.
The head of Homeland Security, by the way, Kay, has announced that they're sending agents to sanctuary cities. This is the new acting head, said we will live by the rule of law. So there's an article yesterday that I read that we're going to see more ICE agents, etc., going to cities. About out of time for this morning, Kay. Thank you so much for coming in and visiting with us. Primary lets you move on. We'll have you back and we'll chat again.